So I just did, the last Curse of Strahd video I did was how to roleplay Strahd. This time we're going to talk about combat and stuff. I have a lot to say about this, and the first thing I want to say is that Strahd is too easy. If your party are 9th or 10th level and they had the Sun Sword, the Holy Symbol, and the Tome, Strahd's dead, right? He's got 144 hit points for a level 9 final boss with 16 armor class. That's insane. He is not powerful enough, straight up, and they will have means to just kill him within 2 rounds, even 1 at certain points if your party's built well. I have a lot of fixes for this that I think I should talk about. You don't have to implement this, of course, but this is what I did. So the first fix I had was to make Strahd a 13th level wizard, which some people are going to scream and cry at. This was literally just to give him a 6th and 7th level spell. For the 6th level spell, I wanted to give him Tensor's Transformation so that he could pick up a sword and just frickin' a boom, and just absolutely destroy. And for the 7th level, I took Whirlwind, because Whirlwind creates fucking chaos and I love it. So they're the 2 spells that I decided to take when I made him 13th level. The second thing is that I tripled his health. He had about 420 in my stream, I believe, to memory at least. I might have increased it like post or something, but the point is I gave him that much health, which people are going to start scoffing at, but he's taking a buttload of radiant damage. His regeneration feature is not going to be in play for the final fight. Just admit it. Like, it's just not. Another thing that I did was that I overrode a layer action rule where you can only pick 1 layer action and then you have to pick another one before you can pick that one again. Basically, there is only 1 useful legendary action here. Strahd can summon spirits and specters and shadows and stuff, which is fine and all, but they're level 9, like, no. The legendary action here. Until initiative count 20 of the next round, Strahd can pass through solid walls, doors, ceilings, and floors as if they weren't there. This allowed me to pull some crazy shit as him in the final fight, because the final fight happened in the crypts, where there were a bunch of 10-foot rooms just scattered around that he kept ducking in and out of. At one point he casted Wall of Stone at 5th level and could move through the wall while the rest of the party had to stay inside of it, and he trapped them in it, and he just kept going in, whacking a bunch, and then going back out until it got dispelled. But this gave Strahd a lot more utility, and I decided he was just going to have this as a passive thing for the final fight instead of using all the other lame-ass legendary actions, layer actions even. It gave him a lot more to do, frankly, and it let him have a lot more maneuverability. I talked to one of my players after it, and he said that was the most frustrating boss battle I've ever had in a good way, because Strahd was being smart and using his abilities to his advantage, and I hated it. That layer action to just go through walls fucked them all over. He tried to charm the low wisdom people a couple times, and basically he just kited the hell out of the party the entire time, and they hated it because there were werewolves and Vistani all around that they had to focus on, because some of the Vistani could do like 50 damage a turn, so they had to get rid of those quickly. Most of them had the role of stopping the Sun Sword, and I'll talk about that in a second, but for now just know that, you know, Strahd's a bitch. I let him wear plate in the final fight. This bumps his AC up to 18. I decided that he would have like ceremonial silver plate that he'd wear for big battles or whatever, and this didn't impact the fight too much. It made like 2 attacks miss more, because the party members at that time had plus 9, 10, 11 to hit, and in addition they had stuff that could give them advantage. And yeah, Strahd could subvert damage in a few ways, but not too many. So that basically meant that I couldn't cheese the hell out of it too much with that AC. His saving throws are pretty good, but they still managed to land a buttload of damage on him when he was out in the open. Something to note here is that his skill proficiency in stealth is plus 14. He has expertise in it. So Strahd could start a fight completely in the shadows with his passive stealth of 24, or you could roll, and most likely still pass everyone's passive perception unless you roll really shit. His passive perception himself is 22 as well, so keep that in mind when you're running him. The shape changer feature is absolutely useless except for, you know, the misty form, where he becomes a gaseous form of mist. Wolf and Bat do not contribute to combat at all. However, they're very fun to use outside of it, so Strahd could appear as a bat, charm someone, and then just... I don't know if he can charm someone in those. Doesn't say here that he can't use it, so you could probably be a bat and charm someone. I also, because his health was bumped, I made his regeneration feature give him 30 hit points a turn. That doesn't matter too much since it's going to start getting cancelled, but it's basically to further emphasize that Strahd is just freaking unkillable at early levels. Because even if they're doing consistent radiant damage, he still has a lot of health and can heal from people. I also buffed some of his damage in a few different ways. For starters, his unarmed strikes dealt 6d6 necrotic damage instead of the usual 4d6. His bite attack did 5d6 necrotic damage instead of the normal 3d6. And I also gave him a longbow, just so that he can shoot things, that does the same necrotic damage as his unarmed strikes. And I also gave him a +2 longsword that dealt the same necrotic damage as well, so that I could use that in tandem with Tenser's transformation and deal 8 billion damage. Strahd, the boss fight was split up into two phases. First one was where it was told it would be in the audience hall, where he had all of his brides around him and a bunch of werewolves burst in and kind of surrounded the party. He, on his mount, went into the ethereal plane, used his action while there to cast the spell, came back with the sword and had a readied action to slash twice at the fighter with the sun sword, almost killed him. That fighter had like 80 hit points, I think. He got brought down to 10 in 2 attacks from Strahd. And then Strahd's horse got banished by Rudolf van Richten because dispel good and evil. That was Rudolf van Richten's clutch moment. He was there for the final fight. I really like Rudolf van Richten. So let's talk about what he's actually going to be doing in the fight, right? So Strahd does not want to stay in melee with people too long. If he does, then he has them grappled and he's about to bite them. Other than that, Strahd does not want to spend too much time there, because frankly, if he is, then the people with radiant damage is going to absolutely destroy him. And they could hold monster him at that level, etc, etc. And I think some ways to make sure that he can kite better is his horse, Bocephalus. People neglect Bocephalus as far as I've seen. Normally it's just Strahd rocking in on himself. That horse can go into the ethereal plane and has more than 100 hit points. Use that shit! I think that it's a great mount for him to have, the most powerful mount that I've seen a creature been able to use. Bocephalus is useful for the ethereal plane feature because Strahd could use that to kite in and out of fights, and it also incentivizes a different target before going for Strahd. That is a great thing to do because it lets your bad guy for a few turns do what they want to do before the party get to do what they want to do, which is the push and pull of D&D combat. At the start of a D&D combat, your party is either going to win or lose, and they can tell, except when the party can tell they're going to lose, they're going to win anyway, because that's how D&D works. And if they lose, then something real wrong happened. Everyone fucked up, whether it's the DM majorly outbalancing an encounter or a party gravely misjudging what they should and should not do. But ultimately, Strahd's fight should start with them feeling terrified that they might lose. I think that some points that the party felt like they were going to lose were the wall of stone that he put up when he tried to charm a bunch of people and almost succeeded several times. And the most important one, when instead of dealing damage, the enemies just tried to take the sun sword. That is an interesting strategy that I thought of, because Strahd is smart, right? He's a military tactician, so he's going to think, right, dealing damage is good and all. They have 2 people in there who can heal it really well. How about I just take away their biggest chip in the entire thing? And he did that through several different methods. To start off with, the first thing was get the werewolves in there, and instead of doing any sort of stuff like that, they're just going to try and nick the sun sword and lob it out the window. And I thought that would be pretty good. The fighter lucked out like hell. Obviously, being a 20 strength fighter with proficiency in athletics, it was very hard and it was very unlikely to work, but continuously doing it for 2 rounds or 3 could have given me an opportunity to properly take that thing and throw it, which created high stakes. Another thing that I tried to get rid of it was that one of the Vistani curses that they can use is ending an attunement to a magic item. I used that on the fighter, and they succeeded the save, which dealt a buttload of psychic damage to the Vistani as a result, But that could have been a game changer, because then he would have been out of his greatest weapon, and then he would have been forced to use his, I think he had a maul, like just a regular maul. It's not a plus anything, just a maul. That wouldn't have been very good to fight Strahd one-on-one with, which is ultimately why I did it. Another one of the strategies I had was surround the cleric with a bunch of vampire spawn and tempt them into not engaging with Strahd. Because the cleric was the worst possible thing that could have happened to Strahd. He had the amulet, or like the holy symbol, which can paralyze vampires, etc, etc. Strahd could have legendary resistanced it, but he didn't want to use that. So instead, for about 2 or 3 rounds of one of the 2 combats, the cleric was entirely preoccupied with a bunch of vampire spawn about to rip into Rudolf van Richten. Another thing that Strahd did was constantly move. This didn't work fully, because one of the party members, Sir Godfrey Gwillem, is a revenant who is vengeant towards Strahd. Godfrey never managed to get in melee with him, but his role as the Strahd finder was very useful, because at the start of every turn I let the wizard character take control of him, because Godfrey's fairly simple to understand. At the start of every turn, Godfrey would signal to the party where Strahd was. And Strahd doing his kiting tactic, which sometimes he was in complete darkness for because a majority of the party were human, it really helped him just kite the hell out of everything. But Godfrey was useful to identify where Strahd was. I think that there should be like a countermeasure to every sort of thing. Like, that is an encounter where locate creature is the most useful spell in the game. In any case, that's some strategies you can do with Strahd. There's some other ones as well that the book goes through, but there's some more personal ones that I used for the final fight. Hopefully this will kind of help you a little bit run a more interesting boss fight. It can be very hard to nail it, and I feel like I did in some respects. I could definitely tell because all of the party cheered when Strahd finally fell. That's what most people do in Curse of Strahd, because Strahd is one of the best villains ever written into a game. And it was very satisfying for the gunslinger to finally end him, not with the gun he made to kill Strahd, but with the gun he made at the start of the campaign just because he thought it was fun. And yeah, that was an interesting final fight moment, to be sure. Thank you for watching. Hopefully you'll take some of this advice into account, and you should probably like, so that we can make more of these. Because when you like the video, more people see this sort of stuff, and then I can help them more. You can also, what else can you do? We have a Discord that you can join where we talk about just everything. Mainly about the modules Waterdeep Dragon Heist and Curse of Strahd, but there's also other discussions. So we had a big old debate about what's better, XP or Milestone. It's situational. But yeah, thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Tatty bye. Hello! She will never escape. She is bound to live here forever. Keep that in the video too.
Me, I'm not keeping that in.
Keep it in the video.
No.
Put it in the bloopers.
No.
Keep it in the video.
No.
You look demented. I hate it here.